talking a little bit about investing in the space economy.
Hi there. Jayden, are you online? Can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Spectacular. Thank you so much again, David and Scott. It's my pleasure to welcome Jayden Sage, CEO of Celestial Ventures, an early stage investor in space, a real visionary, stays a little bit in the background, but advises everybody from the Space Force and governments around the world on both blockchain applications, space investment and applications. Thank you again for joining us here today. And, you know, I just want to ask you right now, we've heard a lot about a lot of different things in launch. We've talked a lot about launch over the last kind of, 10 hours of conference. And also there's been discussion of tourism and other things. Those are both interesting use cases. Particularly responsive launch is relevant for defense. But for the commercial side of things, where do you sit, given the fact that you've been an investor in the space economy now for longer than most people realized it was real? Where do you see this going? Is it just a stepping stone, or is it the thing?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, and it's been 2 days of amazing speakers. Want to thank visionaries like Branson and all the generals and colonels for their services, and it's been amazing. But I think we need to start off with I made a list of the words that were used in this conference so far, and fortunately or unfortunately, I've heard these words before, and they are collaborate, innovate, leverage solutions, cybersecurity, supply chain, integrate standards, and interface. This is the same set of words that I keep hearing again and again. While they serve a particular purpose in communication, they don't serve the particular purpose that we have as a mandate in space, humanity's interplanetary settlement. The goal that we're all seeking, whether it's overtly or covertly, in the sense that we are all supporters, but the goals that we're seeking have a set of challenges which we are not focused on. And the reason why we're not focused on them is because we're focused on a mindset that started 50 years ago. So we need to go back in time and try to readjust our mindset a little bit. We are chasing and expecting a new generation of people to go into space, and not only go into space, to support the space industry with their genius, with their life force, with their ability and their creativity. And that is a big, big challenge, Z, to get the youth of today to take their eyes off of their phone screens and to look up and want to be a part of the space industry. That is the greatest challenge that we have. While we are coming from the Cold War mindset that, okay, we had the Russians, the better dead than red. So we had the Reds. Now we have a new red. So basically we copy pasted and said, okay, now the Chinese are the new red, and that's going to fire us up, fire the next generation up, and get them into space. No, sorry, that's not how it works. That's not going to be the driver that's going to get people excited enough to drop their phones, drop everything that's on their agenda, personal livelihood, earning a better living for themselves, and go and shoot themselves into space or put their heads into a computer for 40 years, figuring out some math equations in order to facilitate the growth of humanity into space. Even it sounds very wordy. People want it quick, simple, easy. Today's the world of hacks. And you're not going to fire up the imagination of the next generation by copy pasting the past and saying, listen, we're going to go into the future because that's the way it is. And the future is defined by space. It's hard. You may blow up. You may not like it, but that's where we're going. So this is the mindset that we're dealing with, where it's not only the people already in the space industry. Basically, in a small set of words, recruitment sucks. The recruitment for space industry really is bad. And this copy paste strategy of now we have to defeat the Chinese is going in the wrong direction.
So then what is the right direction? Are we going to motivate people by being cool? Is it ROI? I mean, like in my lifetime, to paraphrase Kerouac, I've seen the greatest minds of my generation spend their lives getting people to click ads, right? You know, me and you and a lot of the speakers on this series have dedicated our lives to science or defense in the national interest or in the interest of democracy because we care, right? We are internally motivated. But you're talking about getting this mass kind of conversion of a mindset of humanity, get them off their phones, you know, like, get them off of these, silly apps and things. So how do you think we do that?
Oh, it's quite simple. It's as simple as it's all about the Benjamins, baby. This is where we need to go. It's about the money. Show me the money. So when you talk about space and about defeating other people and being there before, because we're the cool kids and somebody else is not the cool kid, so we're gonna take the playground and separate ourselves accordingly. That's a wrong narrative. Today, let's say today's generation X, Y, Z, wherever we are at today. But all these generations are looking at their phones. So let's think about this for a minute. You have somebody in the US where grandpa is telling them, we need to now defeat the Chinese. You're a bright kid and you need to go out and go and join the space industry. He looks up out of respect to his grandpa because he was actually on TikTok. And he's inspired and is looking to build his future life by gaining thousands and thousands of followers and deriving his livelihood and getting a Lambo. Because in his thought is when Lambo, it's not like when Kennedy will be impressed by me because we beat the Reds. It's the wrong narrative. So when you ask him to look up from TikTok, remember, that's a Chinese company. That's a Chinese innovation. So we're living in an integrated world. You didn't have the engagement of people in our nation in the 50s and 60s with the Chinese was as limited as Chinese takeout. You didn't engage with China or Chinese culture the way you do now. So for somebody to tell you that you need to drop your phone, drop TikTok and go out into space, that's a big, big tall order and it's not resonating. That's why so many other industries are capturing the youth. And if you think the youth, here's another big mistake. The youth of today don't know what they're doing and they don't care and they're a bunch of slackers. Really? Welcome to my world of blockchain. They are working so hard to get to a point of enabling humanity to be in a decentralized world where more people are empowered. And a lot of people I meet aren't even in it for money. They've already made their money in blockchain, but now they're still there hustling because they feel that they can make a difference for humanity. Space doesn't have that narrative, and space needs to build it by refocusing their efforts. And you know who our actual competition is? For the Chinese, let's step back because this is quite important. The Chinese are in the same boat as us because in order for them to get to the point of getting their youth inspired on the mass scale, they're going to need them to say, and what are they saying now? We got to beat the Americans. So a young couple in China is like, okay, our leaders are telling us that we got to beat the Americans, but are we having KFC for dinner or Popeyes? And honey, I still want the Tesla. So I don't know, in their mindset, they're like, okay, the leaders are saying we got to beat America, but I hope the innovation keeps coming from America because I like Popeyes and I ain't giving up my Tesla for whatever crappy car that is generated by some random company, China electric vehicle. So they're going to run for the Tesla. So how are you going to inspire the youth? This is not the challenge of just America. This is a challenge around the world. And your competition is one thing and one thing only. And Dr. Ali before touched on it, which is this. Our greatest challenge is AI. Our challenge is that we are building a new world where our challenge is this: the biological substrate, which we want to put on the moon or Mars, the AI component of that, when we build a super sentient, has no such limitations. And while we may act as its pet, it won't feel the need to take us beyond Mars. So while we may get excited that in the next 30, 40 years, we get to Mars, but hey, you know what? There's a whole universe out there, starting with Jupiter's moons, Io, Titan. Are we ever going to get there? Can we get there? We're so divided among ourselves that we can't even think about working together in order to facilitate the growth of humanity on that scale. This is the greatest challenge for humanity. While we have factions within us and everybody suffers. It ain't just us, it's the Chinese, it's the Russians, everybody suffers from the same conundrum, is that we are at a playground like children, focused on finding our set of cool kids, and we're only gonna play with the cool kids. Well, here's a newsflash. Space is the hardest thing we've ever are diving into, and we're gonna need everybody. And this playground mentality will have to change because the 50s are over and welcome to the 2020s. Our challenges are different, our opportunities are different, and we need to find ways in order to grow ourselves. And most importantly, we need to recognize who our true competition is, and it doesn't even have a body.
Yeah, that's a heck of a statement. It's a little bit of a scary statement. Brings to mind Hyperion, Neuromancer, and all those sci-fis we've thought about. But you're talking about an attitude and a mindset, and you've said it a couple times now, getting our brains out of the 50s. Okay, it's a Cold War. Maybe that's not as relevant, as you're saying, in your opinion, because both sides are far more interdependent than we were in that era, right? There was no interdependence with the Soviet Union for U.S. and they were not dependent on us in any significant way. But now we are interdependent. So what do we do? You know, how do you adjust your mindset? I tell my students at Thunderbird in the space program to center themselves on orbit rather than starting from the ground, right? Think post-launch. But is there even more than that in this kind of phase 2 of new space as we're moving forward?
Yes, I mean, it is as eloquently simple as going and reaching into the past, because the answer lies in 1848. So in 1848, there was a little bit of a conundrum for the powerhouses in New York and Washington, D.C., is that we have this amazing place called California. It is so nice. It's so beautiful. There aren't too many hostile natives there, and we need to go and settle it. Well, you're going to take me out of my cushy house in New York or in D.C. or Pennsylvania at that time, and you're going to tell me to traverse 3,000 miles of hostile native land in order for me to get to the other side so I can enjoy this amazing vista. Well, that was 1848. And then what happened in 1849? We had the gold rush. Sutter's Mill happens, and everybody voluntarily decides to build out wagon trails and decides to go out west. You couldn't stop them if you wanted to. That's the key. People need to feel that there is something out there. And that's why I said it's all about the Benjamins. There is a lot of money to be made in space. And unfortunately or fortunately, people operate from a self-interest perspective. So if they feel that they can make more money out in space rather than becoming the next YouTube darling, then all of a sudden, you can't stop them from joining the space race. But you need that trigger point, and that trigger point always has been money. It'll be followed by money, and then it'll also be done with money. So I know it may sound like, okay, we do have these altruistic endeavors, and we do want to go ahead and do all of these different things. We want to pursue gender equality. We want to pursue egalitarianism. But look at our mindset. That's great. We need egalitarianism. We need gender equality. Hell, we need gender equality yesterday. But the challenge is we can't even achieve it here. And now we're going to spend bazillions of dollars to show a picture in space of achieving a little bit more egalitarianism and gender equality.
We can't hear you. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So if we're going to go ahead and spend, billions of dollars in order to have a photo op that now we are achieving gender equality and, egalitarianism in space, we haven't even fully achieved that on Earth. So we need to understand that space, the narrative, has to be way more than just that. Because just think of the day after Artemis picture photo op. What happens then? Then everybody goes back to their TikTok and nobody cares anymore. Like,
right.
Okay,
we're seeing it right now with JWST. This is going to be in the news cycle for a week. And then the researchers are going to continue to do what they do. For people like me who've worked in astronomy for a decade, it's you almost get teary-eyed looking at this deep field because you understand what it means to our understanding of the universe. But for most of, I think, society, it's like, oh, wow, that's super cool. Look, more stars. And then from a week from now, nobody's going to be paying attention.
We will actually here's a litmus test. If you can get somebody in Mississippi who's working as a roughneck somewhere, if he's debating, honey, I'm thinking we've got 4 kids, and I'm thinking whether I should continue working the mine here or whether I should shoot myself on the lunar base, because over there they're offering me 500,000 a year, and here I make 80,000. What do you think, honey? As a family, should we be taking that risk? If you're not having such dialogue, you're not capturing the masses. Look at this. We have Facebook Meta has like 2 million people engaged, right? So 2 billion people or 3 billion, whatever the number is, it's a little bit.
Right. It's a B, not an M.
Yeah, it's a 30 to 50% engagement of humanity. Now think about it this way. If you have, how many people you have in the space industry who are dedicated and looking to get somewhere or want to go and shoot themselves on Mars, whatever, 5 million. 5 million, I think that's a good number, about 5 million. But when you divide 5 million by 7 billion, the very disappointing number is that the percentage of people interested in space is, you ready for this? 0.0007.
Yeah, and we need to change that.
And the only way you change that, change that is you change the narrative and you give people a carrot in order to go into space.
Well, and you know, being a Californian myself, and my favorite team being the 49ers, named for the Gold Rush, I do understand that viscerally, right? You know, as the phrase was back then, "Go West, young man." Perhaps perhaps the phrase we need for the future is "Go up, young person." Up and out into the black. You know, I know your time's limited, so I wanna ask you for you've given us some really direct answers and statements about what needs to be done and what you see as the motivating factors. But we've had some amazing leaders, the people you alluded to, the Dan Harts, the Richard Bransons. We had the CEO of Blue Origin. We've had these amazing people from Viasat, and we've had the spectacular people from defense. You know, what would you, having heard their comments and their ideas, what would you ask them to do to support this next phase? Are there things you'd call out?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Celestial's mandates won't be fulfilled or are going to be severely impacted if these great luminaries and all of these people who've dedicated their entire life to this endeavor don't achieve what they need to achieve, right? Because we're dealing with humanity's interplanetary settlement, and we need to actually get there to begin that, procedure. So first and foremost, they're doing great. They're doing what they need to do. But at the end of the day, going beyond that, they need to pass the baton on, because no person or set of people can go from A exactly to Z, but they'll pass the baton on, taking all of their wisdom and inspiring the next generation of youth. But there's a moment of thinking, there's a moment of contemplation here. Copy paste won't work. The way you got inspired was under a different set of dynamics. Now the next generation, you're going to have to get to their pulse points, and their pulse points is they're living a very, very comfortable life thanks to you, helicopter parents. So you don't blame that next generation, because you created that generation. So, like when you point a finger, 3 fingers are pointing at you. So, this is the challenge that we need to understand, that, okay, here we are. We're going to say, now we copy pasted the Chinese over to the Russian, fill in the blank line, and this is how you're going to get to space, and that's how you're going to inspire them. No, this is not the Cold War. It's an integrated world. That's what you wanted, an integrated world. Well, you've got that. Now you're going to need a new trigger, but that trigger point will always remain the same trigger point that they used in Babylon back in the day, which is money. So you're going to have to inspire them with money, and then how you alluded to go west, young man. Hey, you can't stop them. You'll be like, hey guys, we have needs on planet Earth. Oh no, I'm shooting myself off to space too, because did you hear they pay $800,000 over there? So all of a sudden it's going to be hard to even stop them, but you're going to need to put in the trigger points in order to facilitate that, in order for humanity's expansion to occur. And if we don't do this, I just want to hit this point. Time is of the essence. Time is running out. Time is running out for 3 reasons. One, because of environmental concerns, right? So you could get a plague or a tsunami. Lord knows we've had both recently. So, you could have one of those strike and take us out. Then you have human stupidity, which is as big as the universe. So one of those can cause somebody to pull the trigger, and we could have nuclear Armageddon. So that's another challenge. And the third one is that we are developing a super sentient entity on this planet, which can choose to elect to either engage us or disengage with us, sort of like ants, right? Like we'll eventually achieve the status of ants. And last time I checked, when I walked through the park, there are many kids who take a magnifying glass and for funsies, burn ants. So, you know, to say that AI will just be benign is a little also, you know, putting your head in the sand. So we need to understand that we don't actually have time. We need to move forward for several reasons in order to achieve this growth. And the only way to do that is pivot of the mind. And that's where our biggest challenge lies. It's not in space, it's up here. Change this, you change space.
Well, you know, Jayden, thank you very much for your comments. I want to give you the floor for the last couple minutes here to just tell us about what you're doing with Celestial to fulfill that vision that you've just, spent, half an hour telling us about.
Right. So basically, you know, there's a lot of launch providers out there, and launch is essential, and we need launch, but we need to go beyond that, right? So you need to understand, okay, once you get to Shangri-La, you know, you're going to need to build out all of the faculties in space that you have on Earth. You know, this is some of the stuff is highlighted on our website, but you need to have life support. You need new food. You need biological substrate management. There's a big debate on whether we're going to be on the surface of Mars, making pods that we're going to live in, or are we going to live inside the lava tubes? Well, you know what? At the end of the day, the radiation and all of the elements on the surface of Mars may facilitate that we need to live inside the tunnels. Right. So, you know, the universe has an irony. We will shoot ourselves all the way to Mars and find that we have finally become the master of domains because we are now on another heavenly terrestriality. The only challenge is we will yet again become cavemen. So, you know, the universe
astronauts to cavemen.
Exactly. So while you will achieve that, then you go back to caveman status and then
start over.
out and start all over again. Put that in your check of human hubris, and you'll realize that, you know, this is a cyclical pattern that humanity operates under. And if we humble ourselves, we will actually achieve the goal of human longevity, which has a chance of eluding us. There's been plenty of successful species on this planet. Lord knows, I just watched Jurassic World, and you know, the dinosaurs were there, but look, they lived way longer than us, but they're gone. At some point, if you go back to them and say, hey, what do you think? You guys are gonna die out? They'll be like, no, you know how long we've been around? We're gonna live forever. But talk about a legacy brand, right? Like we think about NASA as a legacy brand. The dinosaurs are the ultimate legacy brand.
That's right.
And they were far more successful than us, and they're gone. They're gone. So
yeah, we pump them out of the ground and use them for fuel.
Yeah, exactly. So the key question is, if we screw this up, what will future species on this planet use us for?
Yeah. Well, with that question, thank you, Jayden, for joining us. This has been a rambunctious discussion. We've been, you know, we've covered a lot of ground, but you know, Jayden and I are going to be doing a Space Talks to go even deeper into some of these topics and cover a few others. So please look for that coming up in the future. But for now, thank you again, sir. It's been a pleasure. Back to you, Scott and David, in our studio.
Hey, Jayden, that was fascinating. I really appreciate that. Some kind of unique insights. Really appreciate it. Love for you to come back and expand on those. Love for you to maybe get engaged with some other people, like-minded people, because I like the way you push the envelope and have some unique approaches and different ways of looking at things. That was very interesting. So,
well, you know what they say. You know what they say. Don't ask for something too much. You just may get it.
Yeah, no, I'll take all I can get. That's great. I know what I'm asking for. That's good stuff. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you both. You guys have a great day, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks, folks.
Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye now.